Fangraphs believes that the Red Sox could be contenders in 2024. However, there's one major problem here. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and as spring training starts to kick off, every major publication is going to start putting out their power rankings or expected projections for every major league team during the fresh 2024 season. We've already spoken about the ESPN projections and what they could mean for the Red Sox on this channel, and now Fangraphs yesterday officially published theirs. This one puts the Red Sox in a really interesting position as legitimate contenders. However, looking at everything, there could be a major problem with this prediction. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break down Fangraphs projections. We're going to talk about why they put them in the spot they put them in, what this could mean for the Red Sox, whether or not it's an accurate placement or not, and we're going to talk about what the big problem with these rankings are. But before we get into that, do me a favor. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We are less than 800 subscribers away at this point, so help us get there by hitting that subscribe button. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's first start with how Fangraphs actually broke down their power rankings, and they did it on a tier list, starting with tier 1, which is the best you could possibly be. These are the early World Series favorites. Now, obviously, the Red Sox aren't included in here, and honestly, there's no surprises here with who was put into this tier. Tier number 2 is teams that they're labeling the AL battle zone, teams in the AL that could be fighting for divisional wins, guys who have the potential to overthrow the Astros, guys who have the potential to claim their division title. Then they have tier 3, which are labeled as solid contenders. This is where they have placed the Boston Red Sox, and they place them at the top of this list. After that, they've got tier 4, the could-be teams who have the possibility of surprising people this year, tier 5, which is no man's land, they don't really have a direction, and tier 6, rebuilding. Teams like the Athletics, the Pirates, where you don't really have anywhere else to put them, you're going to put them in rebuilding. So the Red Sox end up on the higher end of the middle of the pack here, tier 3 contenders, with a projected record of 82 and 80, marginally better than they were last year, still an improvement over what we saw projected last year, which is always a good thing. And the company that they're keeping in this tier is also really interesting as well. Both the World Series teams from last year, the Phillies, are in this. So the question here is why? Why did Fangraphs put the Red Sox into this contender category? And to be honest with you, the reasoning for this tier ranking with the Red Sox makes a lot of sense, and it's very similar to the reasoning behind the ESPN article that talked about the Red Sox possibly being better this year. When you're looking at the entire team as a whole, on paper, the floor right now is higher than it was in 2023. Breaking it down into segments, you look at the defense on the Boston Red Sox, and it should be much better than it was in 23. Right off the bat, having Trevor Story at shortstop at the bare minimum replaces your biggest pain point defensively last year with a really, really good defender, a guy who is a top defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball. Then you add in the fact that Tristan Casas improved himself defensively at the end of last year, and the expectation is that he ends up bringing that into 24, and the fact that Masataka Yoshida is not going to be playing as many games in left field, and instead you're going to be getting a guy like Tyler O'Neill, a 2-time Gold Glove winner, into that mix in the outfield with athleticism in Duran and Ceddanne Rafaela, as well as Wilyer Abreu. And defensively, this team does look much better than it did last year. Looking at this team offensively, it's very similar again to what we talked about when we talked about ESPN. The young players on this team saw a lot of success offensively in 2023. The assumption that most of these projections are making is that they come into 2024 with those same steps, continuously developing and even getting better in some cases with players like Tristan Casas, Jarren Duran, Wilyer Abreu, and others. Now you take that in combination with the assumption that players like Trevor Story, Tyler O'Neill, and Rafael Devers will find their way again at the plate, it could lead to a really successful offensive showing in 2024 for the Boston Red Sox, or at the bare minimum, it's projected to be on paper a bit of a higher floor than what we saw in 2023. Well, the biggest question mark surrounding the Red Sox, though, is their pitching. And why are they projected to be successful with the pitching staff that they have right now? Well, one of the reasons we could point to 82 is, again, right back to what their floor looks like. Going into 2023, their ceiling was definitely higher. You had James Paxton, Chris Sale, and Corey Kluber at the top of your rotation. Those are three guys who, if performed well or performed like they have in the past, would have been really successful for the Red Sox, but their floor was much lower, mostly because of the injury factor. James Paxton and Chris Sale were your projected 1-2s for the 2023 season, and both those guys had extensive injury history, and we saw what happened with that in 2023. Going into 2024, talent-wise, you may not be at that level, but injury risk-wise, you're definitely a little bit better. At the bare minimum, Lucas Giolito is going to give you about 30 starts every season. Brian Bayo proved he could be, at bare minimum, healthy during the 2023 season. You also have Nick Pivetta, who's consistently healthy and giving you 30 starts, and then you've got X factors like Cutter, Houck, Whitlock, Winkowski for some reason, Cooper Criswell for some God knows reason, right? So your floor is a little bit higher when it comes to that injury risk in the rotation. That could be part of the reason why Fangraphs said bare minimum here, they're going to give you innings, and that might be enough to let the offense win you ball games. The last piece of the puzzle here is that bullpen, and I think we all know the bullpen's pretty solid, barring any sort of trade that could be happening over the next few days/weeks. The back end of the bullpen's pretty locked down, and then when you take a look at the middle parts of this bullpen, you've got all sorts of interesting characters slot into different spots and really make this bullpen versatile and successful. I think of these four things, the two things I'm worried about the least is the Red Sox offense and their bullpen. What it's going to come down to is their defense and their starting pitching. And with the Fangraphs, they're assuming that the defense will be better, which I'm going to make the same assumption based on all the changes they've made this offseason. And their pitching has a little bit of a higher floor than it did in 2023. Maybe not talent-wise, but innings-wise. Based on all that, when you really break this team down, 82 wins feels like it's definitely a regular achievement for this 2024 club. If you simulated this team exactly 100 times, probably about 60 to 70% of the time, you're going to be getting around those 82 wins. It's not ludicrous to assume that, hey, if everything goes right for the Red Sox, if everything breaks their way this season, they could fire off 86, 87 wins, which would firmly put them into contention for a wild card spot. It most likely won't put you in contention for the division, but for that third wild card spot, it is entirely possible. Whether they actually make it on 85 or 86, 87 wins is a different story, and to me, that's the reason why Fangraphs has them in this contenders category. However, like I've been hinting at this entire video, there's a big problem with these rankings. The biggest problem with these projections and putting the Red Sox into the contending category isn't the actual placement itself. It's the fact that every other team in the AL East is in Tier 2, in that AL battle zone. Basically, what Fangraphs is saying here with these rankings is that every other team in the AL East has the potential to win this division outside of the Boston Red Sox. So when you're looking at it, did the Red Sox get marginally better on paper going into 2024 so far than they did in 2023? Yes. Believe it or not, the acquisitions that the Red Sox made this offseason, Vaughn Grissom, Tyler O'Neill, and Lucas Giolito, have made the Red Sox look a bit better on paper. The problem with that is that getting marginally better in a division where you were significantly worse than everyone else in 2023, where everyone else is going absolutely nowhere, just doesn't do enough, right? You can get marginally better and still be at the bottom of this division, and that's the biggest problem, in my opinion, with these rankings. The fact that, yeah, they could surprise a lot of people, but they also have to battle against the toughest division in Major League Baseball, and it just doesn't seem like they did enough to get themselves to that point to go toe-to-toe with the other giants in this division. Now, this isn't something new. We've been talking about this basically even before the offseason began. If the Red Sox wanted to be competitive in 2024, they were going to have to make more than just marginal changes. They were going to have to legitimately improve basically every facet of this team outside of their offense. And while they did improve areas of this team, they didn't do everything they needed to do to be a legitimate competitor. And again, we've known this for a while, and I don't want to sit here and just poo-poo the Red Sox this entire video, because I do think this points to something that a lot of fans haven't been talking about, and that is the fact that this Red Sox team isn't as bad as you may think it is. The Boston Red Sox going into 2024 on paper are supposed to be better than they were in 2023, and this could end up leading to some legitimately fun competitive baseball. This is now the second major publication that's not biased in any way towards Boston that has said that they could surprise a lot of people. Again, the problem with that is that everything has to break the Red Sox way, and that's the big thing going into this 2024 season that we've actually had to cover over 23 and 22 as well. If they don't suffer any major injuries, if their young core players don't take a step back, and if their pitching staff can actually give them the innings and success that they've been hoping for, they could be competitive within the AL East. And I think that's something to really pay attention to, because the problem with this offseason is that everyone, myself included, you included, have been focusing on the expectation and the execution of this front office, and we've been sort of neglecting the fact that there's still 26 men on this roster who want to compete and win, and despite the fact that they didn't sign any major contracts or do anything super crazy, they do have some talent within this. Maybe they're not former MVPs or locks for all-star games every single year, but there are some very talented players on this team, and I think it is possible for them to surprise a lot of people. So overall, I think this Fangraphs projection makes a lot of sense. 82 wins feels realistic for the Red Sox, but I also think it's within the realm of possibilities that they're on that 82 win pace, and then for a month they have an absolutely fantastic win streak or something crazy like that, and all of a sudden it shoots up to 87, 88, 86 wins, and you're talking about a team that at the bare minimum is at least fun and entertaining to watch competition-wise for a postseason. And I think that's something to have hope about, and it's okay to have hope going into a new season despite how poorly the Red Sox did this offseason. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Do you have any hope for this Red Sox team with all these projections coming out? What do you think of Fangraphs putting the Red Sox into the contenders category in place with the World Series teams last year, in place with the Philadelphia Phillies? Let me know all your thoughts on Fangraphs believing the Red Sox can be contenders in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, again, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Like I always say, it just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.